This week here at the European Parliament, the British Conservatives were thrown into disarray. The fallout means they can no longer lead the new political group here that they've worked so hard to create. This should have been the leader of the British Conservatives speaking in the session's key debate, sitting in the front row of the chamber along with the European Parliament's other political group leaders. Instead, Polish MEP from the Law and Justice Party Michal Kaminski has the job of leading the new European Conservatives and Reformists group. That means he'll get the automatic speaking time and the profile that goes with it. Leaving the centre-right majority European People's Party to form a new anti-federalist group on the orders of London was always going to be a fine calculation of where influence would be lost or gained. One major worry was which political bedfellows the Conservatives would have to choose to qualify for group status. Conservative officials said they carried out careful vetting, though, and after months of negotiations, the deal was done, on paper anyway. On day 2 of the new parliamentary term, the Conservatives' longest-serving MEP and their former leader stood against his new Polish colleague, Mr. Kaminski, for the post of Vice President. Edward McMillan-Scott was elected, but expelled from the Conservatives in the Parliament and from the new group. Deprived of the post of Vice President, the Poles demanded the leadership instead, and Timothy Kirkhope stepped aside. From where I'm standing, it all looks a bit of a mess. 2 casualties in 2 days, not least yourself, not the group leader.
Well, I wouldn't describe myself as a casualty. I've worked very hard to make sure that this new group is a success, and I believe it will be. And I think we've been seeing in the last 2 or 3 weeks since we started quite a lot of clear evidence that actually it will be an important broker when it comes to votes in the Parliament and the influence that it brings into the Parliament. So, from my personal point of view, I really don't think that is a major issue here.
But what is a major issue, surely, is the fact that in these set-piece debates, you will not have that automatic, high-profile ability to stand up in the chamber, and that surely was one of the main reasons for setting this group up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this again isn't a personal thing from my point of view, but the group will certainly have an important role. I mean,
but the British Conservatives won't be standing up there having their voices heard every set-piece debate.
Well, I think they will, in the sense that the British Conservatives will actually be taking on quite a lot of important committee places.
One of the big issues is, surely, the divisions within the Conservative Party here at the European Parliament, and that's been revealed very clearly.
That was a disciplinary issue, as simple as that, where we had reached an agreement regarding nominating a candidate for a particular parliamentary post. The Conservative delegation had reached that agreement quite clearly with others. We did not therefore expect one of our members to go ahead and stand as well, in their own right, receiving the support from other parties. We felt that was inappropriate, it was a disciplinary matter, and it was dealt with, as the party always deals with these sort of things, in the appropriate way. And I don't think that shows anything more than just the behaviour of an individual that had to be dealt with on a disciplinary basis.
But you now have, leading the group, Michal Kaminski, who is a Polish MEP, some say has had some rather unfortunate links in the past to groups which have not been entirely supportive of gay rights, women's rights, that kind of thing. Are you really happy having that person leading you in the European Parliament?
No, I think Michal Kaminski will do a very good job, and I think the issue is, how he leads the group and with the group's policies in place, rather than, historic domestic policies, which really I think are not so important in the context of Europe.
Not the view of the man at the centre of the row, who we spoke to after his expulsion from the Conservatives in the Parliament.
I'm a loyal Tory, and I hope that David Cameron wins the next election. But when the candidate for Vice President of the European Parliament was named yesterday as Mr. Kaminski, who I regard as a completely inappropriate and unsuitable person to be a Vice President of the European Parliament, let alone, as he is now, leader of the group which contains the British Conservatives, I felt it was proper to put my own name forward and displace him as Vice President. And that's what happened. I did so knowing that this would cause problems with the Conservative Party, to the extent that it focused attention on something which I had been assured wasn't the case, namely that the new group contained nobody whose views or activities one could find objectionable. A very brief look at Mr. Kaminski's background and the things he said makes it quite obvious to anybody that, and I warned the group about this when it was formed 3 or 4 weeks ago, even naming an organisation then, I didn't know he belonged to it, but he did, the notorious national revival of Poland. He was in it for 3 years, and we should have been told that.
What's wrong with that organisation, from your point of view?
Well, it's homophobic, racist, anti-Semitic. They use the Nazi salute. They're linked to the BNP through a thing called the European National Front. It's a deeply unpleasant organisation. And in fact, the President of the European Parliament, elected here on Tuesday, himself, when Prime Minister, sought to ban it.
As for the new Polish head of the group himself, he refutes the specific allegations made by Edward McMillan-Scott.
I was a very strong opponent of Nazi ideas from the very beginning. I'm coming from the country which was destroyed by Nazis, and I'm coming from the country in which Nazis made the most dangerous crime in the human's history. And if someone is accusing me, who is a son of the Polish soldiers, and who is grandson of the Polish soldiers who fought during the Second World War for freedom of Europe against Nazis, and when he's accusing me of being pro-Nazi, is disgraceful.
Mr. Kaminski admits he was briefly a member of the National Revival of Poland group.
Unfortunately, after I left this NOP party, a few years after, this party changed its profile and it turned to very extreme right. But my record as a member of Polish Parliament, as a member of European Parliament, you can check it till the last vote I ever made. I'm a convinced Democrat.
As for the charge of homophobia, that's dismissed as well.
No, come on, I'm not homophobic, it's absolutely not true. You can please quote me if I said anything homophobic in my past.
But the BBC has obtained an interview from 9 years ago on Polish television where Mr. Kaminski is heard to use words to describe members of a gay rights organisation that the interviewer calls offensive. Mr. Kaminski repeats them. His spokesman in the European Parliament has defended him, saying those words had different connotations in those days and he'd never use them now. Britain's new Europe minister has been here in Strasbourg to talk about her plans. Glenis Kinnock's no stranger to Strasbourg. She spent 15 years at the European Parliament as an MEP for Wales. I caught